Good evening, Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing a subject to you that's interesting to me. It might be of interest to you or someone you know, and that is romance from the typical male perspective. This is a big conversation, but I'm going to try to boil it down to something interesting in a few minutes here. So, you've heard of perhaps the beta male and the alpha male, the difference being beta males are typically thought to be more submissive. Alphas tend to be more assertive and aggressive, dominant. It's kind of an oversimplification. However, there are also many other types of people, and I don't subscribe to these categories. I think that everybody has unique traits, but I want to touch on a couple of these traits, such as the difference between pursuing random people versus kind of taking your time to get to know somebody. And it is tempting to boil this trait down into one of these two categories, alpha versus beta. I'm going to just cut to the chase and say that labels are typically not appropriate. You're cutting out something important or misidentifying something by generalizing a person into a personality type, which I've actually talked about in other videos. But in any case, there is some wisdom in taking your time with people, especially as you get older and you have, things that are worth time, that are valuable. Your time is valuable when you get older. You have a lot of experience, hopefully, at that point, and it's not worth it to be reckless and rush into something that could probably ruin your life or your reputation or your health. I mean, getting romantically involved with somebody oftentimes involves the possibility of having sex, which is a gamble, especially with a stranger. So getting to know people is kind of, for me anyway, it's a prerequisite, bare minimum starting point kind of thing. However, there are men who, God bless them, were told or learned somehow when they were growing up that real men act a certain way. And this is kind of what I want to mention. That real men are aggressive, dominant, no matter what. They like no means yes at least 3 times or else you're not a man. It's just these terrible ideas when there's an actual respectful, healthy, happy way to behave that has nothing to do with expectations or social conventions, cultural norms, or anything like that. And it tends to boil down to your gut feeling when you meet somebody. Maybe your paths are at too sharp of an angle or too wide of an angle, if you know what I mean. Maybe the person isn't there frequently enough, and maybe their personality just isn't compelling enough. But I mean, if a personality doesn't mean anything, maybe you're in it for the wrong reasons. Maybe you're in it to hurt yourself or hurt that person, because that's typically what happens if you're just being that reckless, if you don't even care if they're there the next day, if you never talk to them again, kind of thing. And I don't mean to judge. Again, I'm not criticizing lifestyles. I'm not. I will defend your freedom to be yourself, to be comfortable in your own skin, to live your life how you like. But I have learned, fortunately, in my life, actually for a long time now, I've known what I want very specifically. And it is not reckless. It is not casual. It's not super heavy either, necessarily, at first. There's no expectations, really, but there is a resistance, reluctance is the word, a reluctance to be impulsive. Impulse control is huge, and I don't want this to be a sprawling, huge video, but impulse control, when especially when meeting somebody who's attractive, is a really powerful asset. It's a skill. To resist the temptation to jump in before there's some kind of expectation of not just permanency, but perhaps permanency depending on your goals, but some kind of expectation of stability. I mean, there are a handful of things you probably would just want to make sure before you get involved with literally anybody. I mean, are they a drug addict? That's a big one. Are they insane or unstable? Are they psychologically dangerous to you? That's another big one. Are they dishonest? For me, that's a deal breaker. If they're like a career criminal or some kind of rapist or thief, I'd want to know about that, and that's definitely a deal breaker for me. Point is, you can't discover these things by appearances always. Sometimes, maybe. But getting to know people serves a big important purpose. And, just because you're not jumping in the sack with every literal person who's attractive doesn't make you less of a man. It doesn't make you less of a human being. It just makes you a little bit older, makes you a little bit more mature, and makes it so you're probably going to live to be older. It's the best way to do it, if you ask me. Even if you're into a casual, no commitment kind of thing, you want to make sure you're not getting into hot water with people. So I like to just wait until my paths cross several times, so to speak. Not just once or twice, but maybe we have a possibility if our paths continually cross and we also like each other. That'd be great. Anyway, have a great night. Reach out with questions or comments to whitehotrobot@gmail.com. Thank you.